Thank you, Judy and Scott. That was beautiful. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Spokane. Welcome to those of here and those of you that are online. We see you. Hi. Welcome. We are all about transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. Heavy emphasis on positive. I'm Jeff Tawney. I'll be your platform assistant today. If you would all take a moment to silence your cell phones, just a little switch on the side or whatever, we'd be greatly appreciate it. As always, we're going to begin our morning with our opening affirmation. I ask you all to join me as we say, there is only one power, presence, one power active in my life and in the universe, God the good. This is Unity's foundation principle. One presence, one power, one life, living through and as each one of us. This morning, our spiritual leader, Reverend Barnard, is going to talk about something we all wish we've had, and that is things I wished I learned earlier. I'm sure we all can relate to that. I'm anxious to hear what she has to say. Our music this morning, we have all of our talent in our center today is here today, showing up. We have Scott and Judy Jameson. We have the Women's Ensemble. We have the Unity Choir. It's full. It's loaded. We're really thankful. Also, Julia, Rick, and Monica will be up as our song leaders to lead us in our community song, followed by Steve Borfelt, our chaplain, who will be doing our reading and opening prayer. So, singers.
Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are blessed peace, blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace, blessed peace is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are deepest joy is all that you are. You are deepest joy is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are.
Good morning. The readings are a series of poems this morning. The first is by Heifetz. Do not surrender yourself so quickly. Let it cut more deeply. Let it ferment and season you as few human and divine ingredients can. Something is missing in my heart today that has made my eyes so soft, my voice so tender, and my need for God so absolutely clear. The next is from Rumi. Yesterday I was so clever. I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. And another from Rumi. Your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Now let us pray and pay special attention and focus on your heart. Today is a good day. Today is a God day. Today is a day where I open to knowing the allness and fullness of God the good as my very being. In the beginning, God. In the foundation, allness. The allness created me. It breathes me. It guides my interest. It feeds me. It reveals itself through me. The presence of good is right where I am right now. And no matter how hard I try to run from it, I can't. So right now I surrender. I surrender and accept that there is a higher self within me that is pure love. There is a higher self within me that is intelligent and generous. There is a presence within me that delivers grace to myself and to others. As this is true for me, it is true for each of us here today, for God is everywhere present and within each of us. This morning, this service, I allow my higher self to be present, to practice seeing everyone here as the God or good self they are. I open to hearing what is mine to hear, revealing what is mine to reveal, mending parts of myself that I have believed to be absent from myself. As I speak these words for me, I speak them on behalf of all of us. God is good, so am I. God is intelligent, so am I. God is love, so am I. I accept my divine self, celebrating the life I live. And so it is. Amen.
Morning. When Bonnie told me that she was talking about back to school this month, I thought back on my childhood and what it meant to me at the end of the summer. And I remembered camp meeting. And I don't know if any of you, the others of you, have an experience of having gone to revival meetings or camp meetings in the summertime. But I started looking in the music library and I found this book of Appalachian gospel songs. So this morning we are singing Down to the River to Pray, and the women will be singing Precious Memories.
As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Oh, sisters, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, brothers, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Oh, brothers, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, brothers, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Oh, fathers, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, fathers, let's go down, come on down, don't you wanna go down? Come on, fathers, let's go down, down to the river to pray. As I went down to the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way.
Wow, let's hear it again for the choir. How very lovely. You know that song, Sacred Love, that we sing together? It has turned into an earworm for me this month. And I have been in the shower and heard it. And I've been sitting on the couch and heard it. And I have been driving and hear it. And that song has become alive in me. Has that happened to anyone else? Yeah, right? Sacred Love, what a beautiful song. So welcome to Unity Spiritual Center Spokane. Whether you're here in person or online, thank you for being here today. And I would like to shout out to our online viewers and participants and community, and especially today to Lily, James, Rosie, and Heather. And to all others of you who are tuned in, we can feel you, and I thank you for your presence. So I'm so excited today. We're doing a series on back to school. It's September. The leaves are changing. I saw red leaves yesterday, and I got all excited. And I wanted to talk today about what I wish I had learned sooner, what I wish I had learned earlier. So last week we looked at our fundamental truth of the goodness of God and it being all that there is, and therefore by default or by logic, we too are that. And so when I gave us the assignment to look for good, look for God in our lives throughout the week, and anytime we wanted to use the word God, we could replace it with good or the great good, as Charles Fillmore had called it. So whether you are seeking, knowing, or revealing the truth, welcome today and welcome here. So I'm going to begin by telling you a story about a couple of my friends. This is my friend Annie O'Neill. And Annie was an elementary school teacher, and then she took a walk on the Camino. How many of you are familiar with Camino de Santiago? Oh, good, most of us are. The Camino de Santiago can be started in France or in Portugal. There's actually like 12 different places that you can start it. At its longest length, it's a 500-mile journey. And all the roads lead to one place, which is St. James Cathedral, where it is said that the apostle of St. James was buried. So she took, let me go back to her photo. She was in the movie Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago. So if she looks familiar to you, it's probably from that movie. After she walked the Camino, she became a movie producer herself. And I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go along. Here's a photo of Phil Volker. Phil lived in Vashon Island, and Annie introduced me to Phil. Phil was a gentleman who had stage 4 cancer and was taking the ferry going from Vashon Island over to Seattle every day of the week, going to Fred Hutchinson's to get chemotherapy. And so he watched Annie's movie that she was in, Walking the Camino, 6 Ways to Santiago, and he reached out to her and said, I have a dream, and my dream is that I walk the Camino before I die. And so he shared that dream with his doctors. He shared that dream with his neighbors. Phil lived on a farm in Vashon Island that was 5 acres big. And his neighbors came over and built him a Camino on his property. So it took him a year to walk the Camino on his property, but he did. Here's the notebook that he had at the entrance to his Camino. Next to his notebook, he had a map. And every day as he walked, he would write how far he walked in his notebook, the conditions, whether it was rainy or sunny or what was going on, and if anybody walked with him, that got noted as well. And he wrote how far he went and which country he'd be in and where he'd be on the map. So he tracked that really quite beautifully. His nurses came over to walk with him, his doctors walked with him, his neighbors walked with him, his friends walked with him, and I had the privilege of walking his Camino 4 or 5 times as well. And so here's the inside of one of the pages that shows his progress. And you can see, maybe, I don't know if you can see it or not, but Annie's name is towards the top there. And it said she walked with Phil on March the 2nd, 2014, and then the condition of the weather. And just as the Camino has path marks that have shells on them, his neighbors created path marks on his Camino journey that also had shells on them. This is a photo of that. And the shell represents all of the different paths that go to the one place, which is St. James. So you can see the lines that come in, and then the bottom, the base, the foundation being where everybody converges and meets together. So at the end of the trail, just like at the end of the real Camino, the Camino itself, they had built a place to put your prayer rocks. And what happens when you're done walking the real Camino is you pick up a rock and you pray something deep and dear in your heart, and you place it down and you walk away and let it go. So many of those rocks are mine, but they are other folks as well that are at the end of the path of the Camino at Phil's house. So Phil was chatting with his doctors, and his doctors said to him, you know, Phil, I think we can arrange your chemotherapy to spread it out enough that you can go and walk the real Camino. And he said, that's great, doctor. I now have time, but I don't have the money. You know, I need two things, time and money, and I have the one, but not the other. And within 2 days, he received an unexpected check in the mail from the state of New York from an inheritance he was to get many years before, and they finally tracked him down and found him, and he got a check. So he got this check, and it was just enough for not only him to take the walk on the Camino, but it was enough for him to bring his prayer partner with him. So the two of them took the walk on the Camino, and Annie went with them and filmed it. And she had her first movie called Phil's Camino. Phil's Camino was nominated for 25 awards and won 20 of them. It was nominated for, what's the big one called? An Oscar, I think. 1 year, I think this was done in about 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. Phil walked the Camino and he came back a changed man. What happens on the Camino, from what I've been told, I've always wanted to walk it. Someday maybe I will, and someday maybe we'll do it together. Who knows? But what happens on the Camino is that you are exposed to nature. You are exposed to whatever the weather it is. Your feet hurt, you ache, you're highly, highly vulnerable. And you, as you do this journey, there are volunteers along the way that feed you and take care of you. And he was so moved by the hospitality that he experienced on the Camino that he came home and decided that his heart was calling him to be an ambassador of that level of hospitality. So every night at his home, he would prepare tapas for anyone who'd stop by and have a bottle of wine. And he would make those tapas with such incredible love that when he put them on the table, you'd cry. Or I'd cry, I should say. But they'd go right in front of you, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is a piece of art wrapped in love. It was so beautiful. And so he brought all of that home with him. I'm going to show you guys a snippet of a video. It's longer than I normally show. It's 8 minutes. And this is from the great poet David White. So today is Camino and Poet Day. And so I'm going to show you this snippet from his TED Talk. And this one TED Talk he's giving is on a poem he wrote called Santiago, or the Camino. And it's at the very end of his talk, so you'll see him end with a poem. David White is a Pacific Northwest poet, and I was introduced to him back in the 90s. Once a year, he does a poetry weekend over on one of the, Bainbridge Island, I believe it is, and I had the privilege of about 8 years ago going to one of his poetry weekends, which is just spectacular. And so we're going to watch David, and I want you to pay attention. He talks about 3 illusions that all of us buy into as we take this journey, this walk called humanity.
One of the difficulties about walking into your life, about coming into this body, into this world fully, is you start to realize that you have manufactured 3 abiding illusions that the rest of humanity has shared with you since the beginning of time. And the first illusion is that you can somehow construct a life in which you are not vulnerable. Yeah? You can somehow be immune to all of the difficulties and ill health and losses that humanity has been subject to since the beginning of time. If we look out at the natural world, there's no part of that world that doesn't go through cycles of first incipience or hiddenness, but then growth, fullness, but then a beautiful to begin with disappearance, and then a very austere full disappearance. We look at that, we say that's beautiful, but can I just have the first half of the equation, please? Yeah. And when the disappearance is happening, I'll close my eyes and wait for the new cycle to come around, which means most human beings are at war with reality 50% of the time. Yeah? The mature identity is able to live in the full cycle. Yeah? The second illusion is I can construct a life in which I will not have my heart broken. Romance is the first place we start to do it. When you're at the beginning of a new romance, a new marriage, you say, I have found the person who will not break my heart. I'm sorry, you have chosen them out unconsciously for that exact core competency. Yeah. They will break your heart. Why? Because you care about them. Yeah. You look at parenting. Yeah. Parenting, I will be the perfect mother and father. Yeah. Your children will break your heart. And they don't even have to do anything spectacular or dramatic. Yeah. But usually, they do something spectacular or dramatic to break your heart. Yeah. And then they live with you as spies and saboteurs for years, watching your every psychological move and spotting your every weakness. And one day, when they're about 14 years old, with your back turned to them in the kitchen, while you're making something for them, the psychological stiletto goes in. Yeah. And you say, how did you know exactly where to place it, you know? And they say, I've been watching you for a good few years, yeah. And then we hope that our armored professional personalities will prevent us from having our heart broken in work. Yeah? But if you're sincere about your work, it should break your heart. You should get to thresholds where you do not know how to proceed. You do not know how to get from here to there. And what does that do? It puts you into a proper relationship with reality. Why? Because you have to ask for help. Yeah. Heartbreak. We don't have a choice about heartbreak. We only have a choice of having our hearts broken over people and things and projects that we deeply care about. And the last illusion is I can somehow plan enough and arrange things that I will be able to see the path to the end right from where I'm standing, right to the horizon. Yeah. But when you think about it, the only environment in which that would be true would be a flat desert, empty of any other life. Yeah? But even in a flat desert, the curvature of the earth would take the path away from you. So no, you see the path, and then you don't. Yeah? And then you see it again. So this is Santiago, the supposed arrival, which is a kind of return to the beginning all at the same time. We have this experience, of the journey, which is in all of our great spiritual traditions of pilgrimage. But just by actually standing in the ground of your life fully, not trying to abstract yourself into a strategic future, that's actually just an escape from present heartbreak. Yeah? The ability to stand in the ground of your life and to look at the horizon that is pulling you. In that moment, you are the whole journey. You are the whole conversation. Santiago, the road seen, then not seen. The road seen, then not seen. The hillside hiding, then revealing the way you should take. The road seen, then not seen. The hillside hiding, then revealing the way you should take. The road dropping away from you, as if leaving you to walk on thin air, then catching you, holding you up when you thought you would fall, catching you, holding you up when you thought you would fall. And the way forward, always in the end, the way that you came. The way forward, always in the end, the way that you came, the way that you followed, the way that carried you into your future, that brought you to this place, No matter that it sometimes had to take your promise from you, no matter that it always had to break your heart along the way, the sense of having walked from deep inside yourself out into the revelation, to have risked yourself for something that seemed to stand both inside you and far beyond you, and that called you back in the end to the only road you could follow, walking as you did in your rags of love, and speaking in the voice that by night became a prayer for safe arrival. So that one day you realized that what you wanted had actually already happened. One day you realized that what you wanted had actually already happened, and long ago, and in the dwelling place in which you lived before you began. And that, every step along the way, you had carried the heart and the mind and the promise that first set you off and then drew you on. And that, you were more marvelous in your simple wish to find a way. You were more marvelous in your simple wish to find a way than the gilded roofs of any destination you could reach. You were more marvelous in that simple wish to find a way than the gilded roofs of any destination you could reach, as if all along you had thought the end point might be a city with golden domes and cheering crowds, and turning the corner at what you thought was the end of the road, you found just a simple reflection and a clear revelation beneath the face looking back, and beneath it another invitation, all in one glimpse, like a person or a place you had sought forever, like a bold field of freedom that beckoned you beyond, like another life, and the road still stretching on. Thank you.
Thank you, David White. So here are the three illusions that I have reworded. The first illusion, something that I wish I had learned earlier, was that vulnerability equals strength. And this is something that Brené Brown talks a lot about and writes a lot about, and that there's conversation going on in our culture about. And that is that when we're willing to be vulnerable with somebody else, then that God, that good, that exposure within us meets the other's God, good exposure within them, and we have the opportunity to have connection. So I wish I had known earlier that vulnerability equals strength. He also said, when he talked about vulnerability, that there's an awareness of a cycle that happens. And the cycle, he said, begins with hiddenness, and then comes around to growth, then fullness, then the beginning of a disappearance, and then the final disappearance in physical form itself. And that the spiritual awareness of being awake to each one of those aspects of the cycle allows us to live fully all the way to and through our very last breath. On yesterday, I gave an interview to these two wonderful people on KKNW who are watching right now. So shout out to Mance and Mitchell, the radio show that's so fantastic. And on there, Gary Mance was completing a 9 cycle in astrology, which doesn't mean all that much to me since I'm not an astrologer, but the conversation was rich because he's starting a 1 cycle now, which means he's starting new and fresh. And so what I became really aware of is that all of these cycles coexist in so many different ways. That we can have many cycles that we're working through in any aspect and area of our life. And then of course we have the one master cycle, which is our own life itself and the hiddenness before we're born all the way through when we ultimately disappear from physical form. I'm going to skip to number 3, where he said, I wish I had known that planning for the future is essential, but most important is the next step that we take. And I think of, when I hear this, I think of Annie and I think of Phil as being really good examples of this. Is that Annie was inspired to walk the Camino. She walked the Camino. She had no idea that it would change her life. She had no idea that she would leave being a teacher to become a movie producer. She had no idea she'd meet Phil. Phil was doing his life and he was inspired and reached out to Annie. And then Annie reaches out to me. And it's the natural way that life unfolds where we do what is next for us right in front of us. And we say yes to the next moment that resonates with us and that is ours to live. And then going back to number 2, what I really wish I had learned earlier in life was that my heart would be broken over and over and over again. And I wish that I had been told when I was a little girl that heartbreak is natural, heartbreak is necessary, and it's an expected part of a good life, a full life, and in fact, it is part of life herself. And I want to talk a minute about heartbreak. And David White said that it happens in all areas that we love. He mentioned some of them. I'm going to add a few ones here. We can have our heart broken in intimate relationships, in work, in friendships, in family, with our bodies. We can have heartbreak with institutions and systems, especially right now as they're all crumbling and falling apart for something new to be revealed, to be resurrected, to be reconfigured in some way. And then after which we can close, after the heartbreak, we can close down to protect ourselves, or we can remain open and let the heartbreak become a fertilizer for more love. And the Buddhists say that our heart breaks so that it can break open and we can have a greater capacity to love. And I got to tell you, my friends, when we did the vision, mission, and values, love came up in all 3 categories, which means that since we are saying we want to walk the path of love, what we are saying in substance is we are willing to have our heart broken over and over and over again and still stand up and still love and still keep it open. So my next question for myself was, is it my heart or my mind that breaks? And then I went onto the Heart Math website to learn that the mind in my heart is actually larger than the mind in my brain, that there's more brain cells in my heart than there are in my brain. And so their research shows that there's more communication that goes from my heart to my head than goes from my head to my heart, which is a really cool thing. So what Fillmore says, what Charles Fillmore said, is that his definition of sin is a divided mind. Isn't that a beautiful definition? I love that, a divided mind. And so when I'm looking at heartbreak for me, I'm asking myself what's going on in my mind, because I'm wanting to have a whole mind. And not because sin is bad, but because sin is missing the mark. And what I want is to be on the mark. I want to be congruent. I want to be coherent. And so I look at where did my mind from that heartbreak split into 2? Where did I make somebody a hero and someone a villain? Where did I make someone a perpetrator and someone a victim? Where did I label in my mind things post-heartbreak that take me away from the wholehearted living that I want to live? So it's an examination that I do. And then the next question I ask myself always, and I do this with everything, just so you know, is that I say, if God or source or life is good, then by definition, heartbreak also has to be. That if everything is good, there must be some good in heartbreak. And so what I do is I turn to nature. And I'm finding myself turning more and more to nature for answers on how things work. And when I turn to nature and I look at being broken and expanding, I think of the lobster that molts. And a lobster molts 25 times in their first 5 to 7 years of life. And then after that, it's annually. Some scientists say that there are lobsters that live to be 100 years old. Wow. So what happens when they molt is that their shell is too small for them. It can't house them anymore. And so they break off their shell, and then they're that gooey, vulnerable inside that takes in a whole bunch of water to grow. And that takes 2 weeks to a month for them. And during that time, they have to hide behind rocks because they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to prey. They're vulnerable to the sea that's feeding them. And during that time, they eat their own shell so they get the calcium out of what they had produced, and they can grow their next iteration of their larger self. So I asked myself, what if I were to take, with heartbreak, the benefits of that love that is lost and eat it so that I can grow into my next expansion? What if, like the lobster, I don't let go of that which I had been, but I collect from it all of the good that came, and I incorporate it into my new iteration of self? What if it's that elegant and that beautiful? So what if we welcome heartbreak as a spiritual practice? And this is something that people who have touched the hem of wholeness can do very easily. I don't know if it's recommended for people who are presently healing trauma, but for someone coming from wholeness, this is what the bodhisattvas do. They come to the planet and they promise to stay and to witness and transform the pain of the world. So what if we are part of that lineage when we say that we're a spiritual center that wants to live from love, which means we're going to have heartbreak in the journey? What if we become a place where we take the good of that and ingest it and let it become our next iteration of self, and we can hold it and see it from a place of elegance instead of from duality? How amazing is that? So, mending a heartbreak. According to David White, and many of you probably picked up on this, one of the things he said about being heartbroken, he said, stand firm in the ground of your life fully. And what that means to me is that we remain wholehearted in the midst of all of this. In fact, several mystics will say that the answer to most of our problems is wholeheartedness. So we get to learn on our spiritual journey how to repair the heart and how to expand it and how to live from it from a place of wholeness. So for me, I talk to my higher self, from my higher self and to my higher self. You know, Donald Walsh, I think that's his name, Neil Donald Walsh, thank you, had that book where he had his conversations with God. There's no reason you and I can't sit down and do the same thing. that we can write our higher self and say, hey, my heart hurts right now. Tell me, what can I do? And guess what? When you sit in silence and open your heart, you'll get your answer. And you can journal it, and you can have an ongoing conversation with the divine within you. The other thing is to feel everything. One of our natural tendencies is to do everything we can to guard ourselves so we don't feel our own feelings. It's kind of funny when I say it, isn't it? It's like, I'm going to put up a fence to guard me from feeling me. It's kind of weird, but it's what we do. And so the opportunity is to feel everything, even if it just feels awful. And I recall one time feeling so horrible that I called up my spiritual director. And you have to know, I've never in my life done drugs, or like I'm clean. And I called up my spiritual director and I said, I want to go down the street and find someone who sells heroin. I'm in so much pain and it's the only thing that can help me. And she said, Bonnie, it's all energy. Sit with it and breathe, and I will pray for you on my end, and I guarantee you it will pass. And I sat on that couch, and my whole insides, I'm sure, felt like a lobster, where I felt so raw and so vulnerable and so exposed. And I sat there as she prayed for me. She was in LA, I was in Phoenix. I'm sitting on the couch, and within 10 minutes, it had shifted. But those were some of the most difficult 10 minutes of my life, because the emotional psychic pain was so intense. But I reached out for prayer and I sat in it. So I learned on that day that if I allow my body to feel everything that it feels, that I can take it. And that was the beginning of yet another big molting process or transformation. So commit to loving yourself through everything. If you haven't done this yet, have a ritual where you commit to yourself and you say, no matter what, I am going to love you. I'm going to show up for you. I am going to be everything you think you don't have. And give that to yourself. Don't act out towards others when you're in pain. And I love this idea that the lobster goes away and hides in a rock. Because when we act out of pain, we do nothing but just cause a mess, and then it takes a lot to clean up that mess. Bring ourselves out to nature, eat healthy, create art from it, and ask for help if necessary. So I imagine us as a community being able to become very literate in the language of love, including the language of heartbreak. And I see us as a community that will stand witness to each other and hold space as we go through our molting process, being aware that we are responsible for our own molting. Nobody else can do it for us. But having eyes that recognize that we have been there and done it and know what it feels like, and will hold you in a space of love from that place. So let us pray. So let's take our attention and place them on our feet so that we are, as David White says, fully in ourselves, that we stand fully, although we're seated. We sit fully in ourselves. And feel your feet on the ground, touching the Mother Earth, who has loved you from the moment you were born. From the day you became unhidden, maybe even before. And we open our heart, which has been open through this entire service, and yet we are aware of its state of receptivity. And then we place our attention on the top of our head, which is the closest thing to what we metaphorically call heaven, knowing that it is everywhere present, but it's a location that we can get within our own body temples. So from this space and this place, I just want you to take a nice, beautiful breath. And I just want you to recognize that right here, right now, at this very moment, you have everything you need. You have a chair to sit on. You have a breath to take. And I'd invite you to become aware that right where you sit, the good of God sits with you, as you, within you. We can try to run from it, but it's there. Our higher self, our guidance system, whatever you want to call it. And I just want you to take in this message that in our lifetime, our hearts will be broken over and over again, and that it's good. That it is part of the plan, it's part of the process, it's part of how we operate on planet Earth. That which we love opens us. And in that open space, we choose again or we choose different, and then we're opened again. It's like our breath, we breathe in and we breathe out. And so I ask that the eyes of the holy may see through us so that we have the realization and revelation that all of life, no matter what we label it, is good. Even that which we judge, and particularly that which we judge. Oh, what a spiritual journey to find good in that. And so if you're comfortable, hold the hand of the person next to you just for a moment. Feel the flesh on the flesh. And know that God in its infinite wisdom gave us body temples that we may walk the planet and touch each other and look at each other and stand witness to each other and enjoy each other's company. And so I give thanks that God has shown up this morning as each and every one of us. I bless each of us wherever we are on our journey, whether we are climbing the hill or whether we're descending down the other side, whether we see the path in front of us or it's hidden. That right where we are, the intelligence of God is, the love of God is, the direction of God is, the good of God is, and the peace of God is. And for being here alive today and in the midst of each and every one of you, I am grateful. And so it is. Amen. That's our women's ensemble. Yay. So let's go ahead and start the giving process as we recreate the platform up here. And so as our ushers come forward, thank you. I appreciate this, Rick. Look how nice he looks in his long pants, you guys.
I resemble that remark.
Yes, he resembles that remark. Those of you online are used to seeing him in shorts. So you look fabulous. So thank you, ushers, for coming forward. Now is our opportunity to give. And today as we give, I just invite you to give from that open-heartedness and that fullness that we are. And whatever form you're giving, whether it is an already given bank process and you've got your little card, place it against your heart, or if it's cash or a check, that's good too. And let's say our prayer together. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. Beautiful. And can I have Doug come up and bless the money alongside me, please? Doug Ladwig. Doug. After service today, we will be blessing the bench for Mary. And this will happen probably about 10 minutes after service ends, after you've gotten your coffee. And does anyone else want to come and take my other hand for blessing? All right, run. Come on, you come too. There's room for all of us to bless. Oh, and we've got some shorts next to me. Look at this. Oh. God is good and funny. I love that. And I do want to remind us, I have the love sign down here at my feet for a reason. John Pegashar, and I probably said his last name wrong, he's the one who created the whole love movement, and he's coming to speak this Friday night at our speaker series. $25 and you can come hear him. And I really encourage you to come. I saw him in a movie called The Illusions of Money. And I was so inspired by his story that when he showed up one day at Unity knocking on the door, I was like, God, you're good. Like, he got delivered here. And so he's going to come and be our speaker this Friday. So, all right, with our hands toward the giving and our hearts open with the energy flowing through us, I just want to give thanks today that the generosity of God is making its way in through and as the center. That the good that we do for ourselves and for humanity is made evident through this giving. So I give thanks for the generosity of everyone who said yes to the call, to make a contribution, a tithe, to give of themselves that we may flourish. And so I give thanks that God knows what it's doing and that this money is used in appropriate and perfect ways in order to raise the consciousness of this community of Spokane and of the world. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Bonnie. You talk about heartbreak, and then you have those moments that heart heals, and that song they did was a healing, right? One day I'll tell you the story of that. I shared a little bit of it in the circle this morning, but anyways, it was just interesting how things come together. Speaking of come together, unity stands, as we say it together, for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of hatred. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, for we know there are one presence and one life. So whoever you are, or wherever you are welcomed here. I know we have some first-time guests that are here today, and if you're so comfortable, would you mind slipping your hand up so we can recognize you? Awesome. We also have a brand new, well, it's not so brand new now, it's about 3 weeks old. We have a welcome packet for you. And on the front of that welcome packet is a coupon for our barista stand. So feel free to fill that out and grab yourself a free drink on us. And it's a way of appreciating you visiting and sharing your time with us today. We also, those of you online, I put my notes that we need to have an online first-time sign-up. So when we do our new website, we're going to put that in there. That you can click on something and also get something from us as your first-time visitor. But we welcome those of you that are here, for those of you online, to being with us today. If you're new to our ministry, we encourage you to sign up for e-news. You can actually take your phone and take a picture of that, and that will take you to the sign-up sheet or a sign-up form online where you can sign up for e-news. I promise you, we don't spam you. You get one email a week from us, and that's it. So your information is safe. In case you're hesitant, you can also go to unityspokane.org and sign up there and get information about our ministry and the other things that we participate in. We are also, we're hip, we're on social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and if there's something new out there, we'll probably be on that too one day. But you can find us there also by searching for Unity Spokane or Unity Spiritual Center. And you will find us. So this morning, we are blessed by our chaplains. We have Gary over here who's been holding the service in prayer and holding space for us, which I know I have felt. We also have Murphy that will be available. Murphy, just stand up so people can recognize. Murphy will be available after service up at the front. So if you have a special prayer need, something on your heart that you want to share, our chaplains are trained not just in the power of prayer, but also in the power of counsel and in listening, right? And sometimes we just want to have our hurts heard. And Murphy will be available after service if you want to share with her. And we thank our chaplains. We also encourage you to sign up for prayer needs. We also have in the seat pocket in front of you, there's a little prayer form you can fill out. You can go to the website and also sign up for a prayer list of prayer need. Know that those prayer needs we take them serious. They're not only prayed for here locally in our ministry for 30 days, but they're also sent to Silent Unity and prayed for there in their tower, which is pretty amazing, I hear. But you can also know that your prayers are very important and they will be prayed over. All right. Here she comes.
Good morning, everyone. I've got a few things to share for news you can use. First up, we have the Unity Town Hall and voting coming up. Now, there is apparently a change in this, so in e-news it will be updated, but the first Sunday that we will be meeting for the Town Hall is October 15th. So we've got some time to plan. Put that in your agenda, in your calendar. That will happen after services at 11:30, and that will be a discussion on the bylaws, the mission, vision, and values, and all members are invited. Okay, so that is October 15th. And then, so the next Sunday that we will be meeting to vote, that will be the governing members will be voting on November 5th. So we will update that information in future slides, but just kind of a note to yourself, that will be Sunday, November 5th. Governing members will be voting on the bylaws and then that mission and vision that we had discussed on October 15th. So make sure if you have, comments or things that you want to share, please be sure to be at that first meeting on October 15th. And then again, for governing members, November 5th will be the vote. Okay. Again, as Reverend Bonnie mentioned, we will be, please join the Ladwig family after services today to dedicate the bench to the amazing Mary Ladwig. It will be a very special time, so we hope that all of you can join us. And then again, we've got Reverend David's class coming up. That is on it's called 5 Alive, on the 5 principles of unity. So please sign up for that. We need some more signups. So if you are interested, please sign up as soon as you can. I usually wait till the last minute. I'm not going to lie. But we really like it when people can tell us in advance. So the sooner you know that you want to take the class, please sign up for it. That is through e-news. You can also see Deanna or myself to sign up for that. Okay, the Time, Talent, and Treasure Fair is coming up on Saturday, October 7th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please join us. That'll be right here. So we're talking to people in the community to come and obviously our Unity members to join us for that day. So again, make sure that's in your calendar. And again, we still have the speaker series going on, and we have a video to share with you about the next one. I think I just do this, right? Yes.
Hey, it's Dave Ribble. I just want to remind you that the 22nd of September is coming up, and that's going to be third of 4 people for the speaker series. We had great turnout for the first 2. This third one's quite unique as well. Have you ever had a message that you wanted to get out to the world, but you weren't sure how to do it? John Pogachar had that same problem. He wanted to send a message that came straight from his heart. And all of a sudden, we saw some signs going up over freeways 100 feet up, and it just said LOVE. I saw them. I said, who in the world put that up there, and why would they do that? Well, that's part of John's story, and he's anxious to tell you about it. As a matter of fact, he told me to tell you he's looking forward to meeting you. All right, the 22nd of September is number 3 of 4. Thomas Hammer's coming up the week after that. A lot of good stuff going on at Unity Spiritual Center, and we'd love for you to join us. Please click on the link. You know what to do. You know how to get the tickets. But more importantly, bring somebody you care about, because this is information that's going to inspire you. That's what it's designed to do, and it's inspiring me, I can tell you. We will see you next Friday night. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, and finally, before we get to the kids, we still have the painting, that original painting by Gotti, in the bookstore. It is $1 for raffle tickets, to win that, enter to win the gorgeous painting. So please make your way to the bookstore after services if you are interested in winning that amazing painting. Okay, now kids.
All right, thank you, Amber. Yep, we hear the little voices out there. We know what that is. It's time for our kids. They have arrived. We're going to sing them in.
We will.
All right.
We are walking in the light, in the light, in the light. We are walking in the light, in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. We are walking in the light, in the light, in the light. We are walking in the light, in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. We are walking in the light, in the light, in the light. We are walking in the light, in the light of God.
All right, look what we have here. Now, kids, I'm noticing you guys came in with something. Huh? So what do we got here? Ben, what did you make?
Love signs?
A love sign? Does that say love, or what is it? What is it? Something special for you?
I don't know.
How about you? Did you make a sign too?
I don't know.
You don't know? All right, let's check with Lucy. Lucy, did you make a sign today?
Yes.
And what does your sign say?
I'm not telling.
Now I know how Art Linkletter felt. That's all.
Are you guys ready?
All three. Okay, here we go.
L-O-V-E.
Oh! I was looking at the backside of the sign. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, kids, for the effort you put into that. And with that, actually, we're going to do one thing real quick. Before we do that, we have a special day. I don't know if you noticed the balloons, but we have a member in our community that is celebrating not 80, 90 years old. Dale, would you... We're so blessed to have you be a part of this and bring us cake and just let us be a part of your birthday celebration. And I'm sure there's some things in life you'd like to regret or you'd like to do over. So we'll be sure to touch base with you and learn about those as well. Okay, so our children's blessing together. Be the love you are.
Sing the song you hear. Share your joy of life with people far and near.
For ourselves, be the
Love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near.
Awesome. And kids, you may return to those you came with. All right, so if you will all stand as we do our prayer of protection. Together, the light of God.
God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth.